Hello and welcome to The Plane Wants to Fly, a creative conversation and Q&A with Copple and Tiffany Jones. And we're going to introduce them in a second and me, for those of you who don't know me. First, I would love to meet you. Could you, in the chat, those of you who are not driving, Melissa, you're excused, share your name, where you're calling in from, and one thing you would do if you had absolutely no fear. And Kayla and Tiffany, you can think on those questions as well, as will I. I like to give prompts I have not considered myself.
I could speak mine if
Yeah,
you like.
Melissa, speak it.
Okay. Okay, what's the prompt? Sorry. Melissa, I'm calling in from Seattle, Washington. And if I had no fear, I would quit my job today.
Love it, Melissa. We might get her out of there before noon. Okay.
Nice.
Sarah said, and Sarah, do you want to speak this or do you want me to say it? Up to you. I know I said to put in the chat, but if you want to speak it, your voice is welcome.
Oh, hey, okay. Yeah, I would whitewater kayak. Every time I did that in the river, I would bail out once I turned over, and I could flip around in pools, but not in the river. So
Awesome. Whitewater kayaking. Where are you geographically, Sarah?
Boise, Idaho.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And Oren, do you want to speak it or do you want me to read it? Yeah.
Sure, no problem. Oren Lieberman. I'm in beautiful, cold Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I would jump off of a really high diving board.
Yes. How high?
I don't know. Last time I was on just like a regular height diving board, for some reason, even having done that a million times as a kid, just all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is a bad idea. I still jumped in, but now, there's something different now.
What I love is just with this group, we probably have someone that's done the thing that the other ones would,
Yeah.
Together we're brave. Ariel, do you want to speak to what you shared and where you are?
Sure thing. I'm Ariel. I'm in Tacoma Park, Maryland. And the first thing after I wrote cliff jumping, which I'll say about it in a second, I could think of a things that I don't do because I'm afraid. But this was the one that came up first. And I have these like pictures, I can see it on Instagram, like of people in these beautiful in Greece and like where they're just like in a bathing suit on a sunny day and they just like jump off this high cliff into the water and it looks amazing. And fear gets in the way.
Okay. Jenny? And you're muted right now.
Okay, yeah, I was in the chat and then I was stumped by your question. So I'm Jenny, I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. I'm curious that everyone has some kind of like major adventure like with your body. I was like, is there something I'm afraid of that's like pretty basic that if I wanted to, you know? I'm gonna go with the original. What I thought originally was I would travel across Europe like for a very long time. Not just like go for a week or two, but for a very long time. Maybe 6 months traveling across Europe.
Great. Great. 6 months in Europe. Melissa's going to be available starting at noon today. So
Maybe sooner.
maybe sooner. Monica, where are you and what's one thing you'd do if you had absolutely no fear?
Oh, so I'm in Missoula, from London, originally, and one thing I would do if I had no fear, I'd just get on with my things, with my projects.
Yeah.
Just get on with them.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Get into action. Cool. Is there a project you want to name in this moment?
Yeah, I mean, I would be probably less sort of careful and quicker expressing my views and my perspectives, which are to do with the workplace consciousness and, you know, the things that we just ignore altogether. So, you know, writing a book and just being more vocal, you know, about the things that I'm seeing.
Awesome. So using your voicing, letting us hear you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, welcome and welcome others coming in or watching this at a later date. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jeremy N. Smith. I'm a life and leadership coach, which means I get to help people reconnect with their innate power and purpose and bring big dreams to life. And in this online event series, I interview amazing people doing just that. And gosh, Caitlin and Tiffany are extraordinarily inspiring examples. Caitlin Copple is the founding partner of Boise-based Full Swing PR, where her work has elevated the stories of female founders, sold books, won groundbreaking elections, passed legislation in multiple states, and ousted a lawmaker accused of sexual assault. In 2012, Caitlin became the first openly queer person elected to the Missoula City Council. In 2016, she became a mother. In 2009, she founded Full Swing. And in 2024, which I believe was pretty recently, just a year and a half ago, she took her first flying lesson. Tiffany Jones is an LA-based executive coach, keynote speaker, meditation master, and wing walker. Tiffany's life took a transformative turn in her 40s when she navigated the profound grief of her father's suicide and faced her own battle with cancer. Through a profound health and wellness journey, Tiffany broke free from the systematic patterns of her past and discovered the keys to unlocking true joy in her life. She emerged as the grandest version of the greatest vision she ever held about herself, including becoming a wing walker. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you all. I'm going to spend about half an hour in conversation with Caitlin and Tiffany about taking flight in literally and figuratively, and then open it up to your questions. Caitlin, you were a full-time executive and a parent in your 40s when you chose this dramatic new pastime of learning to fly. What was your path to the pilot seat?
Yeah, so I was not a kid that grew up wanting to be a pilot. I didn't really think about it too much. I never had a fear of flying and was always happy to travel and get on an airplane, but definitely didn't see myself doing this necessarily. I think what changed was going on a couple of river trips in central Idaho, the Maine Salmon and the Middle Fork. I've done the Maine Salmon twice now with a really cool company out of McCall, Idaho that's LGBTQ owned called Canyons. And their pilots were just so awesome. And I got to know them, got to chat with them as they would fly us into these little backcountry airstrips that Idaho is kind of known for in the aviation community, but wasn't something that I was super aware of. And I had a 40th birthday party on the river. I basically filled my own trip with my friends and sent out save the dates 18 months in advance so everyone could save up and be there. And I had a 40th birthday kind of bucket list, and taking a flying lesson was one of the things. So I'm 42 now, or as I like to say, level 42, because I tell my son he's only on level 9, which is why I know so much more than him. And yeah, it's just been an adventure from there. I think I just really loved it, and I didn't realize how accessible it could be to actually buy an airplane. I don't own one yet, but like to fly in the general aviation community. I mean, some people buy Sprinter vans, and that's seen as pretty common. I think in our society, they're not cheap, but you can totally buy an airplane for the price of a Sprinter van, which I don't think everyone knows. So.
Wow. And brief follow-up on that. In our pre-conversation, did you tell me it's actually like kind of harder to get lessons than it is to like get the plane? Or that
Well, I
could
don't
be?
know if everyone has had this experience, but I was on a wait list for like a really long time for basically every flight school. And I had messaged a bunch of CFIs that I'd found through different Facebook groups. And Glass Cockpit Aviation in Boise was the first one that opened up a spot. And I was lucky to be paired with Barry Cohen, who is my instructor, and he's now the chief pilot there. And I like many things about Barry, including that he's a Virgo like me. We're just like one day apart and some years. He's older, but he brings the appropriate amount of like dad energy to the whole situation, because a lot of CFIs are like men in their 20s who can't even rent a car yet, and they're like teaching you how to fly a plane, and that just made me a little nervous. So I like Barry, and he's very meticulous. So he's been a great instructor.
Dad energy, meticulous. And if I can work backwards from one thing you said there, how many of these schools or wait lists did you enter at a time?
Gosh, I think I was probably on 4. Yeah. And then I had just messaged some CFIs. I had hoped to work with a female CFI. And there actually, like, had I gotten into Carmel, which I believe is where Sarah trains, there actually are several there, but there's none at my school. And not for lack of trying. I mean, I think they realize that that's something that they should probably try to improve on.
So 4 schools and how many CFIs?
How many CFIs at my school?
No,
Or how many
did you reach out to outside
Oh,
of
probably
schools?
just like 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in other words, is that characteristic of you or
Yes, I'm
a
really
tipping?
tenacious. I'm
when this-
like,
yeah.
you tell me I can't get in, then I'm like extra curious. I'm like, really? You don't want my money? Like, I'm here. Tell me more about why this is such an exclusive weird club.
Love it.
Yeah, prior to flying, I was very into golfing, mostly because it just seemed like such a broy thing. And when I lived in Missoula, I was actually part of this like Scotch tasting society just because it was full of Republicans. And I wanted to see like what their deal was.
Awesome.
I also got my concealed carry permit in Missoula, even though I don't own a gun, and I'm very much pro common sense gun safety measures, just because I wanted to understand like what these people are thinking.
So 6 doors at a time, and if any one of them is closed, then you put yourself on 6 waiting lists.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. So 6
And I
by
follow
6.
up. I'm a publicist, so I follow up.
I love it. 6 by 6 is the Caitlin Copple technique. Just keep that in mind. It's patented method now. And following up. Yeah. Awesome. How many times would you say you followed up with the one that you ended up being the point of entry, the one that was a yes?
That's a good question. Probably just like, I mean, I usually would check back in like every month. And I think I did my discovery flight in June, and my first lesson was late October. So that was 2024. Yeah.
So about 4 follow-ups.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what success looks like. 6 different things, 4 follow-ups each, one of the, and then 4 months later you're in. Right. Love it. Tiffany, for those who don't know, can you explain what it is to be a wing walker? And then, yeah, I'll just start with that. What is a wing walker?
Well, a wing walker is someone who flies in a 1950s biplane and then at altitude, which is somewhere between maybe 3, 4, 5,000 feet, they climb out of the plane and onto the wing and they strap themselves in and then they go for the ride of their life. That's a wing walker.
I just want to note that order. They climb out of the plane and then they
Yeah.
strap themselves in. Could
Yeah.
you say a teeny bit more about that? Where are they strapping themselves into? They climbed out of the
Well,
plane.
I'll show you. I'll show you the photo. You guys can see. You guys see this?
Wow.
You see it?
So
Yeah.
I don't think I realized that part. So there's no one flying you.
Well, no, Mike is flying. Well, the
Oh,
pilot's
okay. Oh,
flying
there
back
he is.
here.
Okay, I couldn't quite see
Yeah.
it. Okay, there's still someone
So-
flying the plane. I was like, that's a
Yeah.
curveball. No wonder
It's
it's
not
illegal. Okay.
No, it's not an automated plane as of
Yeah,
yet.
it's from the 50s.
Yeah,
Okay.
so once you're at altitude, then the pilot will do what's called a wing wag, and he'll do the plane like that, and that's the key that I can walk out. So you walk out, and then you climb up here, and then there's a belt. Like it's nothing current. It's literally from the 50s. It's like a belt that like a weight belt, and you just like strap it to your waist, and then you give him a signal that you're strapped in. And then he starts flying and going like this or like that. It's awesome. It's the best thing ever. So that's wing walking. That was wing walking. It is illegal now. So yeah. So there's that
I think it's a
piece.
funny term too, because a lot of pilots, like I mentioned this to a couple people at my flight school, and they're like, wing walkers. What? She's the person that has the lightsabers on the runway, like people think that you're that person
Yeah.
because they're called wing
Yeah,
walkers
no.
too, but this is much cooler. So I
Yeah.
educated them.
Yeah.
And,
Thank you.
and for anyone that's watching, listening to this, the Zoom screen just looked like we were all frozen because as Tiffany was describing and then showing us the plane, we all just went with our mouths just sort of agape. It's cool to see, to be in a circle of people freezing together as Tiffany is moving. So, what was your path, Tiffany,
Hmm.
to getting into that?
So let's see. My path really was when I was a little girl, I wanted to be a pilot. So that was my goal in life was to be a pilot. I grew up in the 70s and my father had told me girls can't be pilots. And at the time it was partially true. In the 70s it was partially true. There weren't really women pilots because they came through the military somehow, right? The Navy or the Air Force, and women were not in the military really in the 70s. So I took that to mean I could never be a pilot because they didn't allow that. It sounded so dumb to me. Like, what do you mean? I am a pilot, is what I was thinking, right? So the trajectory of my life just went in a different direction. And then like after my father passed, it wasn't until his passing that I realized like that's not actually true. Like there aren't a lot of women pilots. However, of course I could be a pilot. So then I'm going through the conversation in my mind of would I want to be a pilot? Do I want to pursue that? I have young children, that sort of thing. So I put being a pilot on the back burner. However, what I did want to do was wrote out a list of all the planes I wanted to fly in because I love aviation so much. I'm the person, I like literally the airport is right there. I watch planes land and take off all day at LAX, which is where I live in Los Angeles. And so I just made a big list. These are all the planes I have to fly in that I haven't been in yet. So helicopters and gliders and um, I was so disappointed when the Concorde was grounded permanently because I'll never fly in the Concorde, which is the fastest plane on the planet. So in that process, I discovered wing walking and I was like, wait, I could fly in the air on top of the plane. Like this seems amazing to me. I have to do this like right away. This has to happen immediately. And there's only one school. That's the only plane and the only pilot in the entire United States who is certified to do that. So making something like that possible was commitment. It was perseverance. It was patience. So that was the path. So that's the path, And then as soon as that occurred, then I was like, I'm going to do that for the rest of my life. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to figure out how to do that. And then the FAA made it illegal. So for those of you who are like, I'm not sure if I can do what I should be doing because I'm afraid, like go figure it out because it just might not be available for you in the future. Could you imagine if I had never done that? What a crime. That would be criminal. Terrible. That's the past, Jeremy. Did I answer your question?
Loved it. Loved it. I mean, I'm just, yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, I should ask another question, but I just kind of want to like sit with what you shared. It was, and you said I am a pilot when you were how old?
Oh, like my closet, I converted it into a cockpit. I made my closet a cockpit. And every day after school, I was flying people from like Florida to Atlanta. And so that's who I feel I am in my soul. So yeah,
And of that checklist, how many planes were on that checklist?
there's so many planes on that checklist. I mean, there's 100 at least on
So
that
over a
checklist.
hundred, how many have you hit?
Mm, probably 15,
Awesome.
probably 15.
And how many
Yeah.
of the rest of us hit? You know, that's the thing. You can have a list that's 100. Look at her. She's like, these are the
Right.
86 I haven't done yet. And the rest of us are like, what? You've done 15?
I know.
And Monica says rumor has it they're bringing the Concorde back. So,
I have heard that rumor, Monica. Oh my gosh, I
okay.
hope that's true. I really hope that's true. Well, now I just wanted to say for this aviation group, or so now I'm being aligned with what are called AAMs, or Advanced Air Mobility Vehicles. So these are automated, autonomous, and they're happening. So there's 3 or 4 companies that are building what look like drones, but they're people movers. I mean, this is the Jetsons coming to life. So I'm in conversations with these companies that are doing these really incredible things. One of the companies, their name is Archer, and Archer Aviation purchased a local runway here or airport here, and they're going to be shuttling the athletes at the Olympics
Mhm.
on these autonomous vehicles that, like, they rise up and then they fly and then they go down. They can land on buildings. Like, they're way safer than helicopters. So I'm seeing all of these new aircraft that are coming. So the list, Jeremy, of the planes I'm wanting to fly in are getting bigger and bigger
The list is getting
and bigger.
longer.
Yeah.
Great. Great.
Yes. Yeah.
So if someone wants to, experience a flying car, you're the coach for them?
I mean, they're not approved yet for flight. We'll see what happens with Archer and these athletes, but it's on the way. It's definitely on the way for sure. Yeah.
I want to not necessarily bring us down to earth, but move us to slightly more where a lot of us are. Okay. Many people are afraid of flying as passengers.
Mhm.
What can you share that might be comforting or encouraging based on or a tip, based on your experiences? I'll start with you, Kaylin.
Sure. So I think, the title of this is that the plane wants to fly. And it's actually true. And I never took any physics classes. I don't know how I got through without, but I never took a physics class and I really didn't know much about aerodynamics. But when you learn about it, it's actually quite comforting. Like, I don't want to say it's like hard to crash a plane, but it's probably harder than anyone thinks. Like, you just kind of pitch for best glide and put it down in a field. And luckily where I live, there's lots of fields. So, and I've landed our plane that I train in, multiple times with simulated engine failure, and it's really like you can do it quite safely. Granted, it's simulated, but like, you keep your head, you follow your checklists, and it's okay. I think the other thing that probably surprises people is like how normal turbulence is. And the turbulence really is not like a thing that pilots are afraid of. Like, we're definitely tracking on, the weather. I think you almost have to become a meteorologist on your way to becoming a pilot, especially at the higher levels. I'm just doing my private pilot's license right now. But I think, turbulence is really nothing to be afraid of. And everybody who's in charge of the plane, the pilot in command, and the first officer very much know what they're doing and can get you where you're going safely.
In like a sentence or two, what can you
Mhm.
say? Why is turbulence not something to be afraid of? What is turbulence in that case?
Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm gonna be back in my written test now. But I think basically, well, one of my favorite metaphors for flying is that air is a fluid, which is just true. That's not even a metaphor, but that it's almost like whitewater kayaking, right? And if you think about something like mountain waves, if you're flying over mountainous territory, it's almost like the mountains are the rocks and the river that the air in this case has to go up and over and around and over. And so that's why sometimes you can get a big updraft that lifts, especially small planes, up or drops them down, and why you have to be extra safe altitude wise in those settings. So I think thinking about it that way can help a little bit
So
for sure.
it's kind of like being on the water on a raft.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Or surfing.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, Tiffany, what would you say?
Jeremy, repeat the question.
Yeah, of course. For people who are afraid of flying as passengers,
Mm.
what do you tell them? if you're trying to, is there anything you'd add that might be comforting or encouraging?
Jeremy, do you mean as a metaphor for life? For
Wow.
accomplishing that which we
Take
might
it any way
be.
you want. Use the physics or use the soul.
Well, if I answer the questions in terms of being afraid of flying, as a way to look at like those that are afraid to accomplish something in their life,
Mm.
like cliff jumping or rolling over in a kayak in the middle of the river, I'm reminded that the word courageous comes from the word heart. It means to act from your heart. And when our heart flutters a little bit at the thought about doing something that may be fear-based, I believe it's the heart kind of calling our attention to what it is we're wanting to have an experience with that is unfamiliar to us. So I really believe that the courageousness required of something that is calling towards us is the thing we need to be moving toward,
Mm.
and that we should be prioritizing the flutter of our heart because it's not moving us away from something, it's moving us closer to something. And we just natural as biological beings, we can receive fear of doing something new that we've never done before. And yet I do believe the fluttering of the heart is the indicator for jumping off a cliff. Like you should be jumping off a cliff if your heart flutters to do that. So, with wing walking, my heart fluttered in such a positive way. I told my children, I told my mother was there, she's 83. I was like, hey, if this goes sideways, you just need to know I'm the happiest I've ever been falling to the ground. I'm good. This is my heart is calling me towards this. And that's where the courage comes from.
Wow. The word flutter, it just occurred to me, right? It's something we hearts do, and it's something that wings do, the birds do. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're, kind of related to this theme, and I'm sure people put this to you, and I don't mean it to be a tiresome question, but I'd love to hear your words. You're both grown-ups and you're both parents. How do you navigate risk taking? Maybe Caitlin, I'll let you start with that because
Sure.
Tiffany just spoke so
Yeah,
well.
so I mean I loved what you have to say, and I think that's a beautiful way of thinking about it. I think I also am a backcountry skier and I've done avalanche certifications as part of that, and I'm pretty conservative. It's weird. Like I actually really like safety and I like to take risks, but I like to take risks within a structure. I probably would never be a wing walker, in part because I have a child. But that's not to say that like you shouldn't do that if that's what lights you up. I think I am also somebody who, is going to get instrument rated as soon as I'm done with my PPL, which means I could fly in clouds, right? And in more weather, even though I will probably personally choose to not fly in weather for like a very long time, especially by myself. So I think everybody has to know, like, if you're thinking about backcountry skiing, your risk of an avalanche goes up considerably if you if you ski slopes that are more than 30 degrees in slope, right? And so if I'm going out with friends, I'm probably going to not ski slopes that are steeper, even though I very much can, because I don't want to get in an avalanche and I'm going to err on the side of caution. And so one of the things I really like about being a student pilot and hopefully soon to be a full private pilot is that you have personal minimums, when it's a no-go, you've thought about it ahead of time, not when you're in the moment and might make a bad decision because like you got to get somewhere, there's a wedding, you're in the bridal party, you don't have a backup ticket, like all of these things can happen. And if you set those personal minimums well in advance, it just becomes a pretty black or white decision to go or not go. And I take comfort in that. Like, so for tomorrow, I put this in the chat, I'm supposed to fly to Auburn, Washington, which is a smaller airport outside of SeaTac. And we probably won't end up going because the weather's pretty sketchy. We'll see. But we're, keeping a really close look at it. And I have a backup ticket at the same time on Alaska Airlines to get me there safely regardless. And I just buy refundable backup tickets when I can't go.
am I right? I'm recalling, you, I think we talked about it was your dad.
Yeah, we're both part of the Dead Dads Club. I didn't know Tiffany was too. It's not a fun club to be in.
Hmm.
Mm.
What what did you learn from, your dad's life and death
Mhm.
in
Well, my dad really liked
relation to
fast cars.
this
So
risk
my
taking?
guess is he would have been into planes. He was also a physician, and in the pilot community, sometimes they call Cirrus planes doctor killers. And my dad was very good at math and science. He was an oncologist, hematologist. And so I think he would have been very supportive of what I'm doing and also probably wanted to do it himself. He passed away when he was 50 in 2002, and I was almost 19 at the time. Um, and I think part of the way my dad lived his life, I mean, it definitely informs how I live mine. And I think I don't put things off. And my parents were very much saving for retirement, not going to do the thing they wanted to do until they had, achieved XYZ and gotten there.
Tiffany, you spoke so eloquently about this already, and at the same time, I want to, give more voice to the question directly. As a grown up, as a parent, is there anything more you'd say to how you navigate risk taking?
Yeah, I'm very attuned to what fills, what lights my pilot light inside of joy. Very attuned to this. So when I experience something or hear something or see something that is just flaming the pilot light on my on joy inside, I move toward it. And I'm calculated and I'm smart about it. But it's not risky to me.
Mhm.
Mm.
When I'm moving towards love, that is not risky for me. So, and since I've been very young, I spent time in Spain, and they have a phrase in Spanish that essentially says, a life lived in fear is a life half lived. And I have very much lived my life that way since I was a teenager. Yet I'm smart. If I'm moving towards love, it's not risky for me. It's not
Mm.
risky. So I'm rock climbing, I'm doing these planes, the way I raise my children is, hey, if your heart's calling toward it, I will support it, even if it scares me, even if it scares me. Um, but if the pilot light inside of me of love starts to kind of go down, I don't pursue it. So I'm not, even though for example, I have my scuba certification and I have been scuba diving all over the world. I'm not really a water person, actually.
Mhm.
So I've been on cruises and things like that. But when I hear like kayaking in the water, that does not call to me. It feels risky to me because I don't love that. I don't love the
Mhm.
experience of water. So that's how I think, Jeremy, I manage risk is I move towards love.
That's how I manage risk. I move toward love,
Yes,
or that doesn't call to me because I don't love that.
pretty
Just
much.
there's so much clarity. I'm receiving so much clarity and power in that. I'm going to rewatch this so I can write down what I just repeated that you just said because I'm not writing it down this moment. Or someone, Jenny, email it to me, whatever. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Jenny. Um, I'm sure many people are curious. So, Caitlin, you talked about a flight tomorrow. Did you tell me you also before we talked? Are you
I'm flying tonight too.
you're flying tonight?
I'm
Okay, right,
obsessed. As soon as my child's
right,
gone, I'm like, let's go.
right. So,
Oh.
how? And you spoke to this a little with the Sprinter van, but how do you make the two things that people say, "Oh, well," but how do you make the time
hmm
and the money
Mm,
for this?
yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of a magician at both. I don't know. I don't like look too hard at the facts and I just go toward it. Maybe that's my way of moving toward joy or freedom. I started the business not having a clue really what I was doing, and this was 2019. My son was 2, and I just kind of wanted to be a freelancer. I had done PR for a long time. I just wanted control over my schedule, basically. And then within 5 months, I had made my old salary, and around the same time, connected with Rachel Rogers, who wrote the book We Should All Be Millionaires, which is a great one, especially for Melissa to read immediately. And Rachel, talks a lot about how only 2% of women-owned businesses scale past 7 figures. And I thought that was bullshit. And so I just decided to make it my new feminist challenge to do that. And so we did it in less than 4 years. And I think there's just something, not unlike being able to land an airplane. When you make $1 million, even though it doesn't mean I personally have $1 million yet, right? But like I did that thing, and now it kind of makes you feel like you can do anything. And I think there's something about doing hard things that rewires your brain, and it gets easier and easier to imagine how you might do that in other areas of life. So, and I'm kind of a weirdo. I mean, like I was telling Jeremy, I live in this building in downtown Boise. Like I'm a 4th-generation Idahoan. Like Boise did not used to have high rises. And I live in like the only high rise in Boise. It's called the Arthur. And it's just such a weird way to like experience Boise. And in order to do this, we're renting an apartment. And so we rented out our house and our ADU. And I'm essentially treating the house that I own like a business, for better or worse. And it definitely frees up, airplane money when you do that. So yeah.
Awesome.
And as far as the business, we're building it hopefully to one day sell it. And a big thing that people look for when they're buying a business is that it can run without the owners, right? And so it's actually really good for me to step away and have no connectivity for a couple hours. It's a good test of how good your systems are.
Yeah. And this is remind us again, what is your day job? What is your act?
Yeah, so I'm the founding partner of Full Swing Public Relations.
So this is a public relations professional who can
Mhm.
walk away from her phone. So those of us who are like, what would I do if I wasn't able to respond? Just, there's way. And could you say, Caitlin, just again, the name of that book for anybody who wants to?
Yeah, We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rogers.
We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rogers. Thank you.
And anymore, I mean, having $1 million doesn't really even mean that you're much higher than middle class. It's just a weird time to be alive, right? And so I think, especially because so much of our social safety net in this country is not provided for by the government, it's not even provided by most employers anymore. It's important to know how to make money and to take care of yourself, I think.
Mm,
And that's also partly why I wanted to become a pilot, is part of my political stress. I do believe that the revolution will need more female pilots, and I want to be able to get out if I need to.
I'm feeling a lot of hell yeah vibes on the Zoom right now. Tiffany, how do you make the time and or money for this? Or how did you?
Yeah, we all have the same amount of time.
Mm.
We all have the same amount of time. So, I like Caitlin many years ago. I've been an entrepreneur now. I've owned my own business for like coming up on 20 years, I think. So, um, I was building a business, building a business, building a business. It was a multi-million-dollar business. And in the midst of that process, Jeremy, who had mentioned that I had been diagnosed with cancer. And so I had to step away from the business to seek medical treatment. So there were many months that I just wasn't even involved in the business. And after I came out on the other side of that experience, I looked at my business that was making millions of dollars. And I was like, man, there's a lot about my business I don't really like, I don't share the same values as that client, or that client doesn't pay my invoices on time, or that client questions my scope constantly. I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna wipe out parts of my business that no longer look like that are of the value system of how I am running my life now. Like I felt like I was getting a second chance at life. So that's what we did. My business partner and I, we cleaned house and we made a lot of swift changes. And part of that was leaning into more of what I value in terms of the type of business that I run and the type of clients that I work with and the people that I partner with and the kind of life I want to live. So, big part of that was, what does success look like for me? Okay, well, it looks like being able to walk my children to school and hold their hand because they are only 2 blocks from here. Whereas before my cancer, I would get up 6:30 in the morning, look at my phone, be stressed out, trying to take calls, trying to make breakfast for the kids, getting frustrated that they didn't know where their socks and their shoes were, and just having like a kind of morning, and then like, you guys get to school, it. And I was like, this is not what success looks like for me at all. So I decided to design my time in my day very super intentionally. And I decided I'm not looking at my phone before 8 o'clock. I'm not taking any meetings before 8 o'clock. I don't care if you're the president calling. I'm spending time with my children. I'm going to be present with my children and look in their eyeballs, and then I'm going to walk to school with them and hold their hand. And then I'm going to walk home and then I'm going to pour my cup of coffee. And then I will proceed with my day very calmly. So my life today is very calm. It is very calm. It is very intentional. And the money is still flowing. Like, I believed that I had to be like hustling and grinding and busy being busy. And that's what would make me more money. And that's not what makes me more money. It's being calm. And people want to work with someone who's calm and successful and confident being calm.
Well, I'm getting excited hearing you talk about being calm. There's a paradox. Yeah. I mean, I just feel like I just want to trail each of you and just repeat, every third sentence. Like, I was calm, I was intentional, and the money kept flowing.
Yeah, it's still there. It's still plenty of money there
And
available.
I don't know, I could be wrong, but I think if I talk to 100 people and I get to talk to close to that, in the course of a year at least, and I said, how many of you, what feels scarier, flying an airplane or firing, letting go of anyone that's not a fit for you as a client or job? They'd be like, I'll fly the airplane first. So
Yeah.
I'm so glad you kind of offer both those examples, right? I want to turn in a moment to the Q&A. This is an unfair question that I'm going to ask anyway. In a sentence, in this journey, what is the number one thing you have learned? Caitlin.
I honestly think it's the plane wants to fly. And I don't know if that came out of our conversation. I think maybe it
100%
did.
came out of our
But I
conversation.
think it's like so often we get in our own way, and they talk about in aviation like hazardous attitudes, and we all like tend toward one. And mine's definitely like over controlling the airplane or impulsivity almost. And it comes from like wanting to like be right and like impress like an authority figure and probably like some perfectionism thrown in. And so, like, the plane wants to do what it's meant to do. And sometimes you just have to kind of get out of the way and just like trim it out and let it fly. And I think that is definitely a metaphor for life. And if you're, overly type A and hustling all the time, you are getting in your own way of that flow state that Tiffany so beautifully described.
Tiffany, in a sentence, what's one thing you've learned about? What's one thing you've learned in this journey?
That we are all capable, more than capable. We are all blessed to be able to fulfill on being the greatest version of the grandest vision we've ever held about ourselves. It is more important that we are human beings than human doings. Who we're being in the world, it should follow, and then what we're doing as a result of that comes next.
I'm going to restrain myself from repeating what you both said. Rewatch it. I'm going to send a link. We're going to go to Q&A in one sec. First, I just want to share quick links to these fine folks. Here's a beautiful way to see Caitlin a little bit more. here is one of many ways to see a little bit more about Tiffany and see more of these
Thank you.
photos. And if you want to find out more about me, here's my website. And you can sign up for my newsletter there where I announce cool events like this. Okay. Let's get to your questions. Just raise your hand or frankly, yeah, Monica, if you could unmute.
Hi. Well, thank you both for sharing your stories. It's always great to hear, how other people navigate things. So my question is about where you get motivation from, right? Because I'll give you some context. So I've been running my own business for the past 17 years. The first chunk was with a business partner in an office, hired employees, and now I'm more doing things by myself. And I know other people who are entrepreneurs, who stepped away maybe from a corporate or consulting space and are currently doing something on their own. And a big chunk of conversation is if you don't have that whip over you, right? If you don't have a structure, how do you motivate yourself when you at the same time have probably gone through some kind of an existential crisis? You don't have the ego, the fuel is different. So when you switch from that ego driven fuel to I need to, be better than, something, or I need to get this title, I need to get that amount of money, to now I'm driven by something that I actually really care about. But that is not enough in terms of creating energy and motivation all the time. So I just wonder how you both, approach this, how you deal with this, like where does the motivation come from? What helps you keep moving? Because you can have a great vision, but if you don't take action, like it's just, it's obviously not going to happen.
Do you want to start, Tiffany?
Sure. I appreciate the question, Monica. So I will say that I'm very disciplined. And the word discipline comes from disciple. And disciple is the root of that is love. You are loving what you are committing to. So I'm very disciplined. And with that, what's included in that discipline is focusing on not just being motivated to generate more clients or more money or growth in my business, but what I'm very discipled with is my health and wellness. If there's one thing I can share with you that has been instrumental in my own journey of what I feel is creating a beautiful, successful life unique to me, that's intentional, is the discipline to be slowing down, to be reading, to be learning, to be meditating. As Jeremy mentioned, I'm a meditation master. So, and that's what I do every morning. And it's a non-negotiable in my life. So I'm waking up every morning at 4:45 and I'm running this pillar of success that I created for myself. It's like I exercise and then I meditate and then I read and I journal. And now my day is set up for success every single day. It takes a lot of discipline to do that. And yet it's what's making my life better. So my life is like an upward spiral instead of a
Have you
downward
always been
spiral.
disciplined?
So my discipline really came in 2017. So it was after my father passed, right? So my father died by suicide. Jeremy shared that, and just a month later, he called me on the phone. I know it sounds totally nutty, but he called me on the phone, like, "Hey, this is your wake up call." And I was like, "Fuck!" Like, okay. And so I just said to him, "Hey, what is the purpose of this? What am I doing here? What is the meaning of all of this?" And he goes, "Well, that's super easy. It's to enjoy it." And then he hung up, and it was like, okay. From that moment on, Monica, from that phone call, I began to try to figure out, how do I live this life in joy so that I'm enjoying my life? And no one teaches you this, by the way.
No.
So it starts with you know, what Caitlin said, start reading a book, being open to learning, slowing your life down. Like, okay, because motivation isn't something you get out there and you go buy it off the shelf. It's like that, like I was saying, it's that pilot light inside of you. Like, so this is where the discipline came from, is creating joy in my life that's sustainable, and it just is this constant upward trajectory that just gets bigger and bigger and better and better and better. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
And I think that is a great way to live your life. It's also not at all how I live my life. So there's probably multiple ways, you know what I mean? I absolutely believe that I'm in an upward spiral in my life, but and I don't think I'm not a disciplined person, but I'm more like I do exactly what I want to do basically at all times. I don't really do anything I don't want to do anymore. And I haven't for quite some time. And I think that's because like I just go back to like my motivation comes from what lights me up. So at work, that's like helping other people share their stories. And that matters to me because we know only 36% of subject matter experts quoted in the news media are women. Most of those are white, straight women, cisgender women. So it's really important to change whose story counts in our society if we want to change anything. And, you know, who controls the narrative has a lot of power and generally a lot of money. So if you want to change that equation, you know, that's pretty motivating. I think with flying, it really does come from a place of love. And I think a place of like wanting to make my younger self proud and just never feeling like I had role models for the kind of life that I wanted to live growing up as a closeted queer kid in Nampa, Idaho, which was basically full of evangelicals and Mormons. Like, no shade if that's your jam, but like it was a pretty like anti-gay stew to grow up in. That was pretty hard. So yeah, I think I'm also like, I don't know if you all are into astrology. I love the Chani app. I think there's something to it, even if we don't totally understand it. And it's not scientifically backed, but I'm a Gemini Virgo, and like I have never been short of motivation. So I've just, you know, I got myself into like a performing arts boarding school when I was 16 and moved to California. Like this is just kind of who I was born to be in the world. I just kind of do what I want and I set a vision and I make it happen.
Mm.
Just to comment on what both of you have said is that what is interesting is that, you know, with motivation, when you have clarity, right, the why, the motivation is sort of kind of natural thing. What I'm noticing, for instance, in myself, because I've always also been very motivated, I come from, you know, small town in Poland and ended up living in the UK for 20 years. I went to did strategy consulting there, set up my own business. But what I'm actually noticing is how uncomfortable I felt resting and taking a moment. And I think I'm like literally just coming out of that, of a period of rest when I redefined everything, you know, wrote a vision board and things happened. But it is like a very interesting process though, when you're kind of shifting, like changing that fuel and, you know, your body wants to just rest and your typical way is go, go, go. So there's a little bit of that conflict as well. And you start questioning, you know, your motivation, your energy and things like that. So thank you for sharing.
I think you should definitely listen to your body. I think very few women listen to our bodies. It's trained out of us at a very early age. And I think, you know, doing any sort of somatic work is really helpful, especially if you've tried talk therapy and feel like you're just updating your therapist on your life. Somatic coaching or therapy can be really helpful. And also like working with a business coach is huge. Like you have to get your mindset right and figure out what works for you. And sometimes you are in a season of rest. Like we've had a business coach pretty much the entire life of our business, which is now 7 years old. So
yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's actually I incorporate somatics in my work with people. So I totally resonate. I think, you know, this has been like just a very interesting discovery, this whole period of not focusing on being productive in the old kind of system way, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tiffany, did you want to say anything more in addition to that?
I think I'm good. I feel complete.
Cool. We've got time for one more short question. Does anyone have a burning question? Or you can say this is a big question and they can just have a short answer. Yeah, Melissa, can you unmute?
Yeah. I think it's probably a big question, but I relate to a lot of what you're saying about the discipline and all of it. I think where it's sticky for me and where I want guidance is how to know your calling. Like, I don't have that thing where I'm like, I'm a pilot. I'm also afraid of flying, so it's definitely not a pilot. But yeah, if anyone can speak to how you acquire the knowing.
Tiffany, in a sentence or two, how do you acquire the knowing?
I appreciate this question, Melissa, and I acknowledge you for being vulnerable and asking it. Um, I would say that the knowing is not outside of you, it is inside of you. And as Caitlin had, mentioned, a lot of who we are is repressed by society and the messages of society or our parents and expectations of others that they place on us. And so I think, Melissa, for you, a great next step would be just going back to the basics of learning, being open and willing to open your mind, open your heart, journaling. What do you love? It's just basics. Like, do you love baking? Are you connected to the earth? Are you, connected to water? And just starting with the basics of getting to know yourself from the inside out. So don't look on the outside and see what everybody else is doing. It's just reconnecting with yourself and slow down around it. Be curious. Don't be judgmental. Be curious about, who am I? What lights my pilot light? It's there. What lights it up? And just start formulating a relationship with it. Plus, we're so judgmental with ourselves. I just want to say that too. We have to let go of the
Totally.
judgment of what's coming out and up. So that would be
Yeah.
my short answer.
Thank you.
Caitlin, last word.
Well, this is kind of probably not for everyone, but I think if you have done like a lot of therapy and coaching and you're still feeling blocked, you might try ketamine, not in a dark street alley, but like therapeutic
Yeah.
ketamine. I did that prior to becoming a pilot as part of my 40th birthday bucket list. And it was really transformative because I do think that there's so much of this stuff is stored in our bodies and it's subconscious. And it can be really hard if you're a person who's very much in your head to kind of access that stuff. And so, that might be worth trying, in a safe, legal way, since we're being recorded.
Amazing. Thank you so much. What an inspiring conversation. These questions are so enlivening. We could just, do this every Friday. And except they got planes to fly and wings to walk. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Thank you, Tiffany. Fly high, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.